It's the ongoing history of protest songs. Clap your hands and sing along. So this is CJ Baker, and a few months back, in response to the Rolling Stone list of the 100 best protest songs, on my website, my first shameless plug, ongoing history of protest songs.com, I wrote my own article of the 100 best protest songs, and then I recorded a video discussing 25 of them. But since then, I decided why not do decade specific lists? So I did the 60s, I did the 70s, and then what comes after the 70s? You guessed it, it's the 80s. So on my website, I just posted the article, the 100 best protest songs of the 80s. But in this video, I decided I'll focus on 25 of them. So just one thing to note. So on the website, there was a maximum of 3 songs per artist. But for this video, I decided just to do 1 song per artist. So if you were to check the website, you'll notice that the top 25 is just slightly different. But that being said, let us just get right into the video. So we'll begin with number 25, Stop the Violence by Boogie Down Productions, which was released in 1988. So KOS1, he was basically motivated to write the song that appears on BDP's landmark sophomore album, By All Means Necessary, an excellent, important rap album. So he wrote this song in response to the murder of his bandmate, Scott LaRock. And it was also around that same time a young fan got killed during a BDP and Public Enemy concert. So basically, the song campaigned against violence within the hip hop community. So around the same time, KLS-One also started the Stop the Violence movement. And in connection with that, Stop the Violence movement was basically a summit of prominent East Coast rappers, and they recorded the song called Self Destruction. So, for example, in the song, one of the rappers, Cool D, he delivered a powerful line. I never ever ran from the Ku Klux Klan, and I shouldn't have to run from a black man. And Public Enemy was also included in this summit as well. So this song ended up being an important genesis and jumping off point to that song as well, to that movement. And it was also a song that we highlighted an important issue. So song number 24 is Coffin for Head of State by Fela Kuti and the Africa 70, which was released in 1981. So this epic 22-minute tune by the Afrobeat pioneer, it covers similar ground to Kuti's 1976 classic protest song, Zombie. So just like that tune, he denounces the tactics of the Nigerian military, which led to 1,000 soldiers attacking the compound which housed Kuti's family bandmates and recording studio. And this attack also led to the tragic murder of his mother, who was a Nigerian activist. So, in protest to this government sanctioned murder, Kuti had the coffin of his mother delivered to the main army barracks in Lagos. So read a song, it expresses Kuti's fearlessness in the face of governmental oppression. So we now got song 23, which is 99 Luftballons by Nina, which was released in 1983. The genesis of the song was while at a June 1982 concert by the Rolling Stones in West Berlin. Nina's guitarist, Carlos Kajis, he noticed that the balloons were being released, and while they were released, he observed them move, and he noticed when they shifted and changed shape, they resembled UFOs. So this made him wonder what might happen if they floated over the West Berlin Wall to the Soviet sector. And then also on top of that, the band cited a 1973 newspaper article where five high school students, as a prank, released 99 balloons attached to flares to simulate the appearance of UFOs. So in the song, in the premise of the song, the release of the balloons leads to an international incident that triggers a third world war. So there was also an English version of the song. So instead of 99 Luft balloons, 99 red balloons. And Luft does not mean red. It's just that they thought red translated better. But the German version is more impactful. So we'll now get to song 22, Rise Above by Black Flag, which was released in 1981. So this song from the hardcore band's classic album Damage, it serves as a compelling anthem of defiance. So it echoes themes of resistance and empowerment. And concerning these themes of empowerment, lyrics such as, "We are tired of your abuse, try to stop us, but it's no use," it resonates more than ever. So the song delivers a galvanizing message of standing up against oppression. So song 21, Bonzo Goes to Bitburg by the Ramones, released in 1985. So this anti-Reagan protest song was initially released as a UK single in June 85 with the title Bonzo Goes to Bitburg. But when it appeared on the 1986 album Animal Boy, they added Bonzo Goes to Bitburg in parentheses. So they changed the title to My Brain is Hanging Upside Down. So part of the reason for that, why they changed the title, was band member Johnny Ramone was a devout Republican and Reagan supporter. So he actually didn't even want to record the song, so they changed the title as a compromise. But we'll get a bit more of what the song was actually about. So the song, or the lyrics of the song, was a protest to Ronald Reagan's visit to the Bitburg Military Cemetery in Germany. And this included grave sites of Nazi soldiers. So Joey Ramone, who was a Jew, he was particularly appalled by this. So this was his way of protesting it. So yeah, the song might be more catchy than most protest songs, but the sing-along nature of the song does not take away from any of the lyrical bite of the message. And also, it should be good to note that Ronald Reagan and in the UK, Margaret Thatcher were both frequent topic of protest songs during this period. So we'll now go to song number 20, and hopefully we'll get the pronunciation right. So it's Tres Veces Mojado by Las Tigres de Notre. which was released in 1988. So it's from the album Idilos de Puebla, and this was by the legendary Notino Band. So basically, the song, when translated in English, it's loosely translated three times a rat. And rat or ratback was used as a derogatory term for an immigrant. So the song, it provides the narrative of three different journeys made by an immigrant. So first, El Salvador to Guatemala, then from Guatemala to Mexico, and then from Mexico to the United States. And each time, and with each journey, it chronicles the challenges that we'll face while trying to cross the three different borders. So we addresses the difficulties with becoming legal in America. So we, especially when we consider what's going on right now, the song still resonates. And it's also good to note that the band notably performed the song at Folsom Prison in 2018. So in 2018, they performed at Folsom Prison. And it was really one of the rare times that a band was allowed to perform at Folsom Prison. I think it was actually, might be, don't quote me on this because I should have done the research ahead of time, but I think it might have been the only time that an artist performed at Folsom Prison since Johnny Cash. So this was part of the 50th anniversary of Johnny Cash landmark concert that this band, and Folsom Prison does have a high concentration of Hispanic prisoners. So it's notable that this Hispanic band performed on the anniversary of Johnny Cash's landmark concert, and they performed this song as part of it. So we're now going to go to song 19, which appropriately is titled 19. So song 19, 19 by Paul Hardcastle, released in 1985. So this innovative electro track by the UK composer was inspired by the documentary Vietnam Requiem, which dealt with the PTSD experienced by veterans. And it also highlighted the fact that the average age of soldiers fighting in Vietnam was just 19 years of age. So through its impactful use of sampling, the song incorporates snippets of news reports and interviews with veterans. And this served as a compelling juxtapositioning to the upbeat melody. So the song also sheds light on the psychological scars of the veterans, and it also highlights the societal neglect that veterans experience upon returning home. So obviously those issues, especially of PTSD, are still relevant and basically could apply to veterans that have fought in any conflict. And it's also good to note that, especially when we get into Vietnam, many of the veterans were also drafted. And of course, it doesn't necessarily change things in the sense of PTSD. Like even when a soldier chooses to willfully volunteer to fight in a war, there is many of the same psychological scars. But there also is a key distinction when someone didn't make that choice, when they were drafted, and basically it was the government choosing for them to give that sacrifice and choosing for them to potentially sacrifice their life for a country and maybe even sacrifice their life for a war that they didn't understand and maybe in some cases even disagree with. So there could be potential psychological scars in that context as well. Song 18, People Have the Power by Patti Smith, released in 1988. And this is from the punk poetess album, Dream of Life. And read this timeless song serves as an anthem for numerous social justice movements over the years. And read that was the intent of the song. Patti co-wrote the song with her husband, Fred Sonic Smith, who was the guitarist of the influential, politically minded proto-punk band MC5. So Patti focused on the lyrics and Fred focused mostly on the music. But when Fred approached Patti about it, he basically wanted to compose a song that would serve as an anthem that people could rally around. And that was something that Patti mentioned in a 2018 Mojo interview. She stated, Fred wanted it to be sung by people all over the world. He didn't live to see it performed live, but I've been on marches where people who didn't know me sang it with banners held high. I've seen it in the Greek elections. I've seen Palestinians with signs that said people have the power. It's beautiful because it's exactly what he wanted. So we're now going to go to Song 17. John Wayne Was a Nazi by MDC, released in 1980. So released a year after John Wayne's death, this given to by the hardcore pioneers refers to the movies that often portrayed Wayne as a heroic cowboy fighting against the villainous Native Americans. So these film portrayals, they won't fall off from John Wayne's real life worldviews. Like, for example, in a 1972 Playboy interview, John Wayne made the statement, I don't feel we did wrong in taking this great country away from them. If that's what you're asking, our so-called stealing of this country from them was just a matter of survival. There were great numbers of people who needed new land, and the Indians were selfishly trying to keep it for themselves. And also in that same interview, John Wayne actually openly identified himself as a white supremacist. So it's no wonder that the band concluded, when I see John, I'm ashamed to be white. So we, the band, viewed Wayne as emblematic of colonial oppression in general. And we, the band as a whole, was pretty political. Like there was a number of interpretations of what the band name mean, and they have adjusted over the years. But initially, it was identified as Millions of Dead Cops, which the debut album, that was the name of the debut album. And there was a notable song on the debut album, Born to Die, that I want to mention briefly. And the song Born to Die also appeared on my list of the 100 best protest songs. But I just want to mention it briefly because the song Born to Die included the chant, No War, No KKK, no fascist USA, which in recent years, so especially after 2016, when Trump was first electric. Yeah, it's too bad he wasn't electrocuted, which I didn't really say that. I'm not endorsing public electrocution. But yeah, let's get back on subject here. So the lyrics ended up being adapted to no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA in recent years. So yeah, I just want to make that interesting note as well that MDC was a very important band in the development of protest music. So that was another notable song they did. But of course, the song on this list was John Wayne Was a Nazi, which made some important statements on colonialism and spoke out against white supremacism. So we now got song 16, the provocatively titled If I Had a Rocket Launcher by Bruce Cockburn, released in 1984. So just like the album it was off, Steel and Fire, this tune was inspired by the Canadian singer-songwriter's trip to Central America on behalf of Oxfam. So this tune was his response to the plight of Guatemalan refugees, so refugees from Guatemala, and really it's chock full of righteous indignation. So even though some have misinterpreted it as promoting visual anti-ism, Cockburn has stated that it's not a call to arms, but this is a cry. So it's really just a way of expressing that righteous anger that he felt over the situation because it really was an outrage what was going on. And it was actually a few songs at that time that really strongly denounced American foreign policy and their American intervention, which really created a lot of problems, especially in Latin America. And really, that is something when we deal with discussions of immigration over the years. Many of those immigrants and refugees came from countries that part of the reason for the upheaval in those countries was a result of American intervention and American regime changes. So that's an important part of the discussion that sometimes gets overlooked. So we're now going to get to song 15, Run to the Hills by Iron Maiden, released in 1982. So this classic song off the UK metals band landmark album, The Number of the Beast, this tune deals with the European colonization of native land. So it includes the lyric, white man came across the sea, he brought us pain and misery. He killed our tribes, killed our creed, he took our game for his own need. And the lyrics also express the hateful rhetoric of European colonists in the 19th and 20th centuries. So that's included in the lyrics or lyric. The only good Indians are tame. So that line, the only good Indians are tame, that poisonous philosophy manifested itself basically in a variety of different ways and in different countries. But for example, in my native Canada, that manifested itself when indigenous children were stolen from their families and put into residential schools, which really resulted in basically a lot of terrible things that these children had to go through. And I'm not going to go into a whole lot of detail there because you can make basically an entire video on that. And basically, that's not even the intent of my videos. I already mentioned, I'm not a political commentator, but music is a good lens of being a jumping off point of taking the time to really delve into these issues and to learn more about them. And these residential schools and the mistreatment of Indigenous people really is a slab blight on Canadian history. Of course, the history of different countries as well, but I just wanted to mention that since I am a Canadian. So we're going to go to song 14. So we got Talking About a Revolution by Tracy Chapman, which is from her excellent 1988 self-titled debut. So Lee Chapman, she juxtaposes a chill out vibe with a hard-hitting lyrical message. So in a sense, that hard-hitting lyrical message, it could almost be compared to hip-hop artists like Chuck D or KRS-One. Like you could see Chuck D or KRS-One almost wrapped in the lyrics of Chapman, like poor people gonna rise up and get their share. So really that is a hard-hitting message. So Chapman wrote this song based on her personal experiences, not just with racism, but also witnessing economic disparity. So we're now going to go to song 13, Beds Are Burning by Midnight Oil, released on 19 or released in 1987 on their album Diesel and Dust. So this is the biggest hit from the Australian rock band, who often addressed Australian politics in their music. So the lyrics were about returning the native land to Aboriginal people, and it also discussed the paying of reparations. So, despite focusing on Australian politics, it became an international hit because really the lyrics could apply to any colonized country. And also in later years, the lyrics about the beds are burning, it also ended up being adopted to protest climate change. And those lyrics, especially the chorus, could almost be adopted in that context as an anthem for protesting climate change as well. So it does show how a good protest song at times can be repurposed to protest different injustices as well. Song 12, Sun City by United Artists Against Apartheid, released in 1985. So the title of this classic anti-apartheid tune was named after the South African casino and resort, Sun City. And because the resort was in an area that supported apartheid, the song promoted a boycott of the resort. So similar to USA for Africa's We Are the World and Band-Aids, You Know It's Christmas, United Artists Against Apartheid was a super group of well-known musicians, but it was more gritty and eclectic. So the song was influential for its inclusion of rappers who were still in the process of becoming a cultural force. So the fusion of funk, jazz, rap, and rock music, it made it stand out. And that musical diversity provided a powerful contrast to the systemic racism that they were fighting against. So we now got song 11, Dear God by XTC, released in 1986. So XTC's lead singer, Andy Partridge, he wrote this tune in response to a series of children's books by the same name that he felt were exploitative. So the lyric questions God's existence and the Bible's validity. So even if you disagree with the atheistic sentiments, the song does ask important questions about religious hypocrisy and about how the Bible is used as a justification for acts of injustice and intolerance. So we're now going to go to Song Tad, Holiday in Cambodia by the Dead Kennedys, released in 1980. So this song is from the influential hardcore band's classic debut album, Fresh Fruit for Rotten Vegetables. So it really juxtaposes the self-righteous attitude of American youth with the oppressive Pol Pot regime in 70s Cambodia. So that contrast can even be noted with lyrics such as, so you've been to school for a year or two and you know you've seen it all in daddy's call thinking you'll go far. So that's contrasted with what was going on in late 70s Cambodia. Well, you work harder with a gun in your back for a bowl of rice a day. Slave for soldiers till you starve, then your head is skewered on a stake. So yeah, that was pretty chilling lyrics there. So yes, the Dead Kennedys re-emerged as a prominent voice for the underground protest movement. And we on my list of 100 best protest songs of the 80s, I did have a couple of songs, a couple other songs by them. So I had like Nazi Punk's Fudge Off, but not Fudge. And I also talked about the song Police Truck, which is a song that basically protests against police brutality. Song number 9, Sunday, Bloody Sunday by U2, released in 1983. So in later years, the reputation of U2 has been impacted a bit, partly because of Bono's insufferable self-righteousness, but you really can't deny the band's ability to compose classic, socially conscious tunes. So this anthemic protest song from the album War is probably the band's most political. I say probably, but I actually might be wrong on that because another contender is Board the Blue Sky from Joshua Tree, which also made my list of the 100 best protest songs of the 80s. But it is one of the most political songs. So it doesn't only address the massacre in Derry, Northern Ireland of January 30th, 1972, but really the scope can be broadened to speak out against any senseless killing motivated by religious and political divisions. So, yes, it's definitely a powerful song. And we'll now go to song 8, Rockin' in the Free World by Neil Young, released in 1989. So, this iconic proto grunge track is from Young's album Freedom, and it's re-emerged as a contemporary protest standard. So the two bookends the album. So the first track on Freedom is an acoustic rendition of the song, and then the last track is the more well-known electric performance. In their own ways, both versions are powerful and effective. So the song was originally a critique of George H.W. Bush's administration, but it's been expanded to protest multiple leaders over the years, and it's become associated with various political movements. So, an edited version of the song was also featured in the closing credits of Michael Moore's 2004 documentary, Fahrenheit 9/11, which protests against George W. Bush's administration. So we're now going to go to song 7. So we got Biko by Peter Gabriel, released in 1980. So this powerful anti-apartheid anthem is from Gabriel's third self-titled album, which is sometimes referred to as Melt. So the lyrics address the August 18th, 1977 imprisonment and subsequent death of South African activist Biko. So the song opens and closes with the singing of the South African anti-apartheid folk song Senzana, which basically translates into the question, what have we done? So the video for the 1987 live version of the song features clips from the 1987 Biko biopic Cry Freedom, which starred Denzel Washington. So we're now going to go to song 6. We got The Message by Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, released in 1982. So, except for the proto rap and jazz poets, you could make the argument that this is the first hip hop protest song. I mean, there is other contenders, like for example, I believe it was 1980, but I know Curtis Blow released a song that predates this called Hard Times. Whether or not it's an explicit protest song is up to debate, but the song does address at least socially conscious issues. So it dealt with some of the challenges that Black people were dealing with. But regardless of whether or not it's the first, it was definitely an important, pivotal song, which basically was influential in the development of political rap music. So this rap classic is a gritty examination of the systemic ills that impact poor Black communities. So the lyrics provide a timely warning message that if things continue to go unchecked, the cycle continues. And it is a cycle that we still see continue to this day. So we now got song 5, Nelson Mandela by the Special, aka released in 1984. And sometimes the title of the song is referred to by its chorus, Free Nelson Mandela. So this anti-apartheid ska classic contrasted a hard-hitting lyrical message with a joyous musical arrangement. So the anthem by the UK two-tone ska band was exported to South Africa, and despite the governmental oppression, it did manage to be played at sporting events and anti-apartheid rallies. So once apartheid was brought to an end and Mandela was free, the song became a celebratory anthem of victory. So we got song number 4, Straight to Hell by The Clash, released in 1982. So this tune is from the album Combat Rock. So like most of the songs by The Clash, it's a protest against social injustice. So the lyrics, they cover a lot of ground, such as the closing of many Northern England steel mills. It also talks about American soldiers abandoning Vietnamese children that they fathered. And it also talks about a whole slew of other racial injustices. And also, the song was notably sampled by MIA's modern day protest classic, Paper Planes. So we're now going to go with song number 3, Fudge the Police, but not Fudge, by NWA, released in 1988. So protest songs don't get much more controversial and confrontational. So the lyrics explore police brutality and racial profiling. So sadly, more than 3 decades later, we have the Black Lives Matter movement and football players kneeling during the national anthem because of the systemic issues mentioned in the tune that have never really been properly addressed. So this rap classic is one of the more notable entries in the canon of FU protest songs. And I say one of the more notable because you have other contenders such as the classic 90s protest song by Rage Against the Machine, Killing in the Name of. But it does show how at times FU could be a direct, concise way of protesting injustices. So we now got song number 2, Redemption Song by Bob Marley and the Wailers, released in 1980. So the concluding track on the last album that Marley released before his death, it's really impossible to have a more impactful final statement. So essentially, the song was a solo acoustic Bob Marley folk tune, but it's really one of the more breathtaking songs ever written. So the lyrics, it explores how thoughts can enslave us and how we really need to reject all hateful rhetoric to achieve true lasting freedom. So this takes us to song number one. So the number one greatest protest song of the 1980s, Fight the Power by Public Enemy, released in 1989. So Chuck D has referred to rap music as the Black CNN. And in many ways, Fight the Power is an exceptional display of all hard-hitting musical journalism. So inspired by the 1975 Isley Brothers song of the same name, Chuck D explored similar themes for this tune that he composed for the classic 1989 Spike Lee film, Do the Right Thing. And really, the song explores similar themes of racism that Spike Lee did in Do the Right Thing. So the song was also re-released as a 2020 remix as part of or in the wake of the BLM movement. But it is good to know the idea of standing up to oppression, it's not a concept limited to just one race or one cultural movement. It's a universal concept. So if humanity as a whole stood up to the abuse of power, then the whole world would be a better place. So this concludes the list of the 25 best protest songs. So was there any songs I missed? Feel free to protest the list in your comments. And of course, it's possible that your favorite song appears on my list of the 100 best protest songs on my website, Ongoing History of Protest Songs.com. But feel free to let me know what your favorite protest song is. And if you want me to keep making content, please like and subscribe. And you can also check out my recently launched Medium and Substack, which I'll include in the description of the video. So thanks for watching, and please stay safe. None of the ways that they currently view change the fact that they've had some classic protest songs over the years. And this is one of them, so you can't deny the band's ability to compose classic, do that again, do that again. Nazi punks, Nazi punks, Nazi punks, fudge off!